All right. I never know how to start because I'm just like,
I feel like
you have, Nkechi, I was just like, you have the best laugh of
thank
anybody.
you. I appreciate that. It's my dad's laugh.
Energy of your laugh. And sometimes I'm just enjoying your laugh more than whatever was initiated
My
the
laugh makes me laugh.
Look at my laugh.
So when I actually hear me laughing, like sometimes you laugh, you don't hear yourself laughing, but when I hear myself laughing,
Yeah.
I start to snort and I laugh more because anyway. My laugh and I, yeah.
Your thing.
It's a
thing.
relationship.
It's so great to have you.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to be having this conversation.
Thank you, Louis Hose.
Yes, we met courtesy of Louis. Well, not courtesy of Louis. He doesn't know that we met, but we met at Summit of Greatness, which is Louis's event. And you were there in your fabulosity with your cooler bag.
Yes, always. Don't leave home without your...
That's exactly what you said. That was exactly what you said to me. Because we're sitting there in one of the sessions and I was like, I'm really hungry. And you said, that's why you never leave home without your cooler bag.
Meanwhile, I'm not even sharing nothing, not a snack.
You sat there, ate your tuna,
not a piece of
ate
tuna.
your spinach, ate your... And I'm like...
Didn't share nothing with you.
No, but I appreciated that. I did appreciate it was all portioned. That it was for, and at that time you were getting ready to compete. So tell me about, you compete, what does that mean? How did you get into it?
So background, when I was 18, in my college, I stepped into a gym for the first time. And I happened to meet Mr. Canada. He just was the guy that was running the gym. And Audrey Beijing looked at me and said, you're a bodybuilder. And from sort of the grassroots of bodybuilding, I learned from a master. And I never stopped. And so I played soccer competitively. And then in 2005, I just had an injury that put me out. And because my career was on the uprise, I recognized, I can't really commit to a team sport. And competing at that level was challenging. And so I needed something to sort of cultivate, feed my competitive spirit. And my girlfriend introduced me to bodybuilding. And I always thought women bodybuilders were like these massive, that I love women bodybuilders. Like I'm a hardcore bodybuilder, but I didn't feel that was for me, like the big, muscular, and then she introduced me to a real feminine side of it. So at the time, figure was the category. And so you wore these beautiful, blingy, two-piece, very expensive suits and heels. And it was really around the aesthetic, the proportion. And then over the years, I competed. I did my first show. I won, and I became addicted.
In your first show?
In my first show.
You won?
Yeah, in 2005.
Wow.
And after that, I just never stopped. And I mean, it's a whole journey because, within that journey, it was just, it was even just learning who I was, because suddenly I became this person that was so obsessed with looking so fit. And then in between competitions, there's an off season. And off season's hard, especially if you don't really understand nutrition, if you don't understand true wellness, you balloon up. And so there was this period of time where I was depressed in my off season, and then I would compete just to be able to continue to look like that. And so in those fashion magazines, in those fitness magazines, they do us harm, because you see those women on the cover and you can't, they get ready one time for that photo shoot and they take 10,000 pictures. And then continue to post them all year. So over the course of the years, I think I've also evolved into who I've become. And I'm sharing that because when I stepped off stage in 2016, I was now competing. By then I was competing at the pro level, so the highest level in the International Federation of Bodybuilding. And I was challenged with competing with sort of the big girls because, I was just competitively, I was really small. And when I stepped off, I felt like my passion had kind of dwindled a bit, in the sense that you work so hard and then you're now competing at the top level, but you're never going to really win, even if you bring your best physique. And I said, I think it's time for me to take time off. And so I took in my head, it was supposed to be a year. It turned out to be 4. And so in 4 years, what developed from me was like just a different life. Like suddenly I got into service, you know, founded an organization. My husband, you know, started his own company. I became an executive at one of the most prominent banks in Canada. And so there was just this big life. And I never thought I'd step back on stage again. And then in January, I was, you know, on the beach and my feet were up, and I happened to see one of our newsletters come through in the fitness industry, and I decided to open it up, and then I see Natural Pro Show. And so finally, I guess after years of, you know, wanting there to be a stage that I could compete at, it became available. My coach was like, you have to do it. And so I stepped back on stage in September, and it's different because now I'm different. I understand wellness. And for the first time, I stepped off that stage and just got back into my life of feeling great in my skin and totally, and realizing that it's never about how you look in that one moment. It's just about the fitness of what your life is like all the time. And
that it's a journey.
It's a journey.
That it's not like a destination that then after that what happens.
And you're constantly fighting to get back to that destination. No, it's a journey. And that was the stop. And then now I just keep going. And so this is actually the fittest I've been in all my life, in all my competitions.
Even when you were competing before and you won, and this is the
because
fittest.
I'd come off and then I would sort of take time off. Like I was still trained, but not at the same level of intensity. And no, when I came off, my coach is behind me, my husband's behind me, and my best friend's behind me, and I'm just like, I'm going for next year already. And I recognize that now is just part of me. It's a part of my overall brand. And that's why it's becoming so much more successful for me.
So competing takes, I would imagine, I've never done it, but I would imagine it takes a lot of discipline, a lot of rigor, a lot of consistency. How do you fit that into, you have now, as you said, a really busy life, you're now a lot of service, there's so much that you do with your organization, you have this career as an executive. How do you fit it in for you to be able to have that level of consistency that allows you to step on a stage confident?
Thank you. Great question. So we all have 24 hours. No, honestly, we all have 24 hours, and I have just figured out how to use mine. And so to do it means that there's no idle time, and there's no focus on anything that is not serving me. So if it's not serving my purpose, then I just don't do it. So it's really about discipline and consistency around the routines I create for my life, and and it's non-negotiable. Like once you set that routine, you can't negotiate with it, and that's I believe, like regardless of whether you compete or don't compete, like your life should have some type of. And what I mean by routine, it's sort of like, what are your values? What's important to you? What's your purpose? And then build your routine around that, because then it's servicing something, right? And so my routine really starts at 4 pretty much every day and ends at about 10 at night, and then I sleep during the.
What do you do? Like, what does a typical day do? So you wake up at 4, and what are you doing when you wake up at 4?
I wake up at 4, and first thing I always do is I thank God for my eyes opening up. And then I leave my house convinced that I'm creating an amazing day. And so that has me doing my affirmations, praying.
Wait, let's just pause on that. That's such a powerful thing that you just said. The intentionality of, I leave my house knowing that I'm creating an amazing day.
Yeah, 100%.
The intentionality of that. That it's like, it's not like you're leaving, I hope it's going to be a great day, or I hope it might be wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm convinced it's going to be a great day.
Yeah.
What an amazing mindset to start a day with.
Yeah.
Okay, so you leave your house, you're convinced it's a great day.
And then I get into my car, I get to the gym. And
so the gym is first thing that you do?
Gym is always first. I think personally, and I know mothers and parents that do it, I think to show up for everyone in your life, you have to give to yourself first. And if it's not going to the gym, it's just taking 20 minutes to do that, to get to a place where you're convinced that you are creating your day, and not that you're going to leave it to the chances of the person on the street who might be rushed, and now there's traffic jams or causes, and you have to be absolutely convinced. And so it's giving to yourself first, whatever that might look like. That should just be the start of your routine. So for me, it's some of that, and then it's getting to the gym and putting my body through an hour and a half of intense like workout.
Every day is an hour and a half.
Pretty much every day. Yeah, I take maybe a day off during the week, where I don't have to wake up in the morning and do that, and then I get on the train and get to work, and then I work throughout my day, Mondays through Fridays, and then after I leave work, if I'm competing, I'm going back to the gym.
For another workout. How long is that evening workout?
About an hour and a half. Yeah. And then and now in my off season, I do kind of split my days so that I'm giving more to my work than I'm giving to my fitness. And so I will do if I do a short morning, then I'm doing an evening, I'm completing everything else in the evening. So those would be the only times I do doubles. And then I come home and typically I'm preparing myself for the next day. I'm catching up on a bit of work. I'm doing something maybe just to support my husband's business. And then stuff to support, sort of my side business, and then to bed. Yeah.
You talked about purpose. You've mentioned purpose several times since we started talking. What do you think is your purpose? What is purpose for you, and what is your purpose?
So purpose for me is really, it started to, I guess I got to the understanding of what it was when I recognized what I was made for. Yeah. And so I think purpose is where you recognize what your gifts are. That tickle, that thing that you just, that when you're like fully grounded, when you're fully just like who you are, that's what, whether you're with people or whether you're by yourself, it just comes to life so naturally, so organically. And so I recognize my purpose is a lot around my energy. It's not even just that energy, but it's like that vibration that comes off of me like when I'm with you, how did you experience that? Like when you left me, did I leave a piece of my legacy in you? It's that energy. And so it's once I recognize that that's a gift, because I start to listen and truly start to believe what people are saying, then I realize, wow, that is my gift. And it's since magnified, like once I locked into it, it's like the world opened up. So I think everyone, and your purpose could be, folding laundry, and then finally you realize that you can open up a dry cleaning business, and then suddenly you're a billionaire, right? Like your purpose could be accounting, your purpose could be, organization, it could be whatever. Like everyone has a gift. It's just so few of us spend time to figure out what it is. And we think your purpose has to be something that's big, bright lights and shining stars. And I'm like, no, it doesn't actually need to be. It's what's that thing that tickles you, that you would do for free, that makes you smile, or when you're doing it, you're at peace,
Talking about energy, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but when we exchange emails, when you write me an email, I wrote this to you and I said, like literally I'm like, could she just write me emails every day? And this is what I find so fascinating, is in everywhere, whether it's who you are when we're interacting in person, whether it's in an email, whether it's on your voicemail when I leave your message, that energy, I feel it. Like you write the most beautiful, your emails start with, it is a great day. Or like, and I can just imagine you saying it. And that is, how did you get to that place where you figured out that you had this energy and this power?
So in full transparency, and I don't mind saying this, it's 4 years ago, so in my 40s, right? So I'm 47.
Black don't cry.
47 on today, yes. Which camera should I look at and say, I look good, eh? Yeah, so it was in my 40s, I had a life situation, my personal relationship with my husband, and a career opportunity that I recognized I wasn't getting, and I had sort of tied myself to. And there was just two life experiences that were happening at the same time that collided and took me into a dark place. And it was my friend, Julie, you've interviewed her, who said to me honestly that, forget that. Like, forget the external world. I don't necessarily feel connected to your spirit, you know? And to me, your spirit's your inner energy, your inner light, and for whatever reason, I don't know what it was, but I was just ready, I guess, to hear that. And she introduced me to a book called A Return to Love. And she said, I suggest you read it. And I did. And like, by Marianne Williamson, that book changed my life. Like, it started me on that journey where I got it in an instant when she talks about love and fear. Babies are born into love and we learn fear. And if we can learn fear, then we can unlearn it also. And she gave so many examples in the book of what fear looked like, and I was able to relate them to, you know, my relationship with my mom, or being bullied when I was young, or, you know, feeling I wasn't good enough, or feeling I wasn't going to amount to anything. And then I kind of looked at what is actually happening in my life, and I realized, yeah, no, great things are happening, so somebody's carrying me. You know, and so these fearful places that are making me dim my light in certain situations, or play small so that I don't necessarily make other people feel uncomfortable or not see my value. I was like, you know what? Them days need to be done. Like, no, honestly, like, I mean, the journey's been 4 years, but if I just chalk it into a few minutes for this podcast, yeah, them days done. And I decided that I was going to start every single moment feeling different, but it takes work. So it took making, and maybe it's my, you know, the discipline that my parents have instilled in me, but no different than, you know, how my fitness regimen that I talked to you, I had to get into the discipline of wanting to be different. And so that meant everything I listened to, I'd shut down music and I turned up podcasts, and I turned up learning, and I turned up books that can draw out experiences and help me put my stuff in front of me, and then say, okay, what did this experience happen? It's not there to harm me. It's there to teach me something. How can I now turn that into good? And so it was taking all of these experiences that I've been encountered, and most of them are in our childhood. And you think that the fight with your husband is the fight with your husband. It isn't. It's the fight with that 6-year-old girl that was told she wasn't good enough. And now she's having a relationship with a man thinking he's going to fix her. And then suddenly he's not doing that because he has his own pain, you know? And so it's even recognizing that. And I literally vocalized to my husband that it's like, I'm going to go and fix me. I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm going to go and fix me. And wherever life takes me, then I'm going that path, because I recognize I'm supposed to only be love. And so that meant everything, my emails, my voicemails, the way I walk, the way I talk, I have to walk from a place of love. I have to lead from a place of love. So maybe that's what you're seeing is just that energy, right? And so you start to recognize that became more and more available to me as I shut down those fears, right? I ripped them out of me. I recently have a video that went viral where I share some of that story, and it's funny because I watch myself and I'm like, I've ripped out pain and shame and frustration and anger, and that's been shared around the world, like, and people are responding that, wow, this is what I needed, you know? And so I recognize that is what we're supposed to do. We are supposed to return back to a place of love, and then start again from there, making sure that love is our guidepost and our guiding principle, you know?
That's such a powerful thing that you said. You used a word that you said, I decided. Mm-hmm. Because I think sometimes we think it's more complex than that there has to be some magical something. I just decided. I decided, and then another powerful thing that you said is the fact that you choose to stay in that place by consuming content, consuming books, consuming what that keeps you, that feeds it, mm-hmm. which is, so tell me about the speech. So you talked about this, like, I watched that speech and whoa.
Thank you.
So the combo of the two energized me in an inexplicable way that I made this hell-bent for glory decision that it was time to become a human energizer simply by returning myself back to love and a clean heart and start again from there. And to do that meant I had to reach in and rip out shame and pain and resentment and unforgiveness and rage out of me. And the best thing I knew to do, and I still do it, is expose it all to light. Because when you expose what lives in the dark to light, and empathy and compassion and love are thrown at it, it will die. And Marion is right. We are meant to shine like children do. And for me, it's that 6-year-old girl with pain now turned to purpose. You see, what I didn't tell them then that I'm telling you now is that my mom, brilliant Nigerian woman, named me Nkechi Nwafor, which in Igbo means God's gift. And so I am a gift, not a victim. And I'm anchored to a very powerful energy source that has no bounds and constantly feeds mine. And now with my gift, my energy, my light, I'm on a mission to leave a You Matter message everywhere I go.
Wow, tell me about this. Set it up for us. Like, how did you end up giving this speech? What was it for? And then how did you end up, what made you decide to speak about that subject?
Sure, so Speaker Slam is an amazing speaking platform. I haven't seen anything like that yet in Canada, right? And so they create a platform where you can come on stage. You don't have to be a speaker, but you have a story, right? You understand there's something in you that needs to be shared. And so that I went to one Speaker Slam and I was like, oh, I'd love to do it. And so then I went and looked, and it just so happened that the month that I was in, it was identity. And I mean, everything I am is really around letting people know that when you step into your identity, wow, watch the world open up for you. And so I was very excited. And my message is really around one of you matter. Like when I have to look in my mirror every day and look at myself and tell myself, you matter. Like, you matter, Inc. If nobody tells you today, that's okay, because I've told you that, you know? And I wanted to share that and share the message of love, that love is really the antidote to and the solution to everything that's good, you know? And so I prepared this speech. I knew that I had a good team of people that were willing to sort of take me through like the practice and all this. And so the first person was really around the content. And I remember it's a funny story. So John Rivera, I sent him my speech and he's like, it's a great, beautiful message, but do you want to win? Like, he says, you have to jump off the cliff. Like, I want you to jump off the cliff, right? And so I rewrote the speech or added to it, and then the second, and he says, yeah, you're getting closer, you're getting closer. And so I finally landed on like the core speech, and then by the time I worked with a few different people, they all added a different little bit of element. And then my last real practice was with Julie, and she's just a performer. And when I say, like, we went through that speech word by word, like I get up and I say the first word, she says, and I go, and she says, no, let's go back to the first word. And she says, like, when you say that, like this, like, I want you to put your body, like, you know? And so literally she broke it down word to word to the final word, and it was amazing. And so when I stepped on stage, I happened to be picked to go first. And I think I always went there with the intention that I had a message that was global and universal, and it makes me emotional. Sorry. Because I just know that there's people that wake up every morning feeling that they're not good enough, you know? And they could be anywhere in the world. And I went from like this energy to like emotional.
No, it's a powerful subject. And it was an incredibly, as someone who watched it, it was an incredibly powerful speech.
Right.
And what you said is so true, that there's so many of us who are going through life just existing.
Yeah.
Existing, just getting by, you know, and then medicating ourselves in different ways to get through the day, whether it's food or drugs or whatever. But yeah, no, keep going, please.
So I think for me, it was like, even that day, like as much as I prepared, when I stood on, like they have a carpet, and when I stood on the carpet, I recognized, Inc, you're carrying anyone in the world that's feeling less than tonight, you know? And when I opened up that day, that evening, it was powerful. Like, I was the first speaker, and like, it was beyond the room. Like, I realized that speech was bigger than that room. And so I didn't win that night, but I won in such a bigger way. And I ended up being fourth, but the people just in the room that told me, wow, your speech was incredible. I thought you were going to be the winner. And then when it went viral, I said, God, you never intended me to win that day. It was really about, you know, being able to have a message that can be shared and reach the four corners of the world, because there's people that need to hear it. There's children that need to hear it. There's parents that need to hear it so that they can then tell their children. And like, I now get celebrity status. I didn't start to go through all the comments because not all of them were great either, but I recognize that the not so great ones are a reminder that I'm doing the right thing. Right? Because I think your haters are really there to see if you pressed it enough that somebody's going to watch you enough to comment that what you said, like you're watching me. So
I didn't ask you to watch.
I ain't watching you, right? So yeah, so it did a lot, and it's the feedback. It's the fact that it made a difference. And recently, Jay Shetty shared it. Like, I was like, what? I was like, and it's been a miraculous experience. So from that, I have been invited to speak at the Grand Slam, and you had to earn your way. And so that's November 20th, and I earned my way. And now I'm going for the win and the viral. So yes, so now, I mean, I'm all about feedback. So I did get feedback, and some of what I thought, I came with energy like right at the top. And so I was this powerful force that even though there was emotion from a judging perspective, they would love to have seen a little bit more variety, like a build up, right? And so I realize now I'm coming back with a whole leap I'm lacing my next speech with grace and power. Yeah.
Cannot wait.
And I'm going to be talking about a topic that we don't often talk about. And yeah.
Do you want to talk about the topic, or do you want to save it?
I don't mind. I think now this will actually now be my first. So I am not a mother. My husband and I obviously tried, but I was what my sister-in-law says, and she's gone vision to, is I was trying to get myself pregnant versus we were trying to be parents, because we could have adopted, we could have done it so many different ways. And that journey of that to a life where it didn't come into an existence, that makes me emotional too, is, for so long you're defined by motherhood, because I think as females, we are told that, you're a girl, you're a woman, and you're going to get married and you're going to become a mom. And, others have really defined me as that, right? Like, when you're young, it's like, oh, my mom would say abstinence from sex is the best form of birth control. And then it's, make sure you pull out in time. And then it's like the day after pill is available. And it's don't get married, don't have children before you get married. And then the minute the priest says you may kiss the bride, lips are still tingling from that kiss. And people are like, when are you going to give us children? And then suddenly you now start to try to have children. And then all of that, don't get pregnant. You realize it doesn't just happen. And then you try again and again, and then it's not happening. So then you go and get tests, and then there's a problem. And then suddenly you feel you're a problem. You feel your womanhood is now victimized, and then suddenly you feel shame, and then you don't share with anybody because you're the problem. And then you try to get fixed, and still nothing happens, and you go through the fertility treatments, and then the money is just, it's grossly expensive. And it's grossly lonely, and I think the thing that I did observe is that, wow, there's a lot. It felt like everyone around me was able to look at sperm and get pregnant, and for me it was like, why is this? Why me? Like, why me? And there's a lot more women that go through fertility than there isn't, and there's a lot of people that don't have kids on the first try, and I've had miscarriages, and we don't think miscarriages should be grieved. You need to grieve because there was hope. There was hope, and then it doesn't happen, and then you feel like you're less than, because all this time you're thinking I'm supposed to be a woman and I'm supposed to have children, and you can't give it to your husband, and just it's a lot. And I've never shared it. And so now that I'm so empowered in my own skin, and I recognize that being a mother doesn't define me, I even Googled, inspiring quotes for women that are not mothers. There's nothing. And so there's stuff for inspiring around infertility, but not being a mother is a little bit different than infertility, because you can go through infertility and have and still be successful in the process. But not being a mother is almost a choice, right? Because we could have adopted, we could have, so there's just that whole journey of that, and recognizing that motherhood doesn't define you. And so it's a message for both mothers and non-mothers, because there's a lot of mothers that have given their whole lives out for their children, and they've lost who they are in that, so I want to use that platform to really say motherhood is a gift that's gifted to you, but it's not who you are, and you're more than that, and that is, but use that to still amplify your life, but don't let it define you, because if it happens or doesn't happen, it doesn't change the fact that you matter and that you're important, you're significant, and yeah.
So it's a very hard topic, and like you say, it's one that I think there's a lot of loneliness, there's a lot of shame. Not a lot of people talk about that, right? It's a very much a hidden thing. What's made you want to talk about it? Because yes, you could have done your healing by yourself, figured out, okay, this is who I am, this is where I'm at. What's making you want to talk about it?
So the topic in November is conquered. And I had to really think about, okay, what would I say I've conquered, And it was a suggestion from a friend, and that might be something I want to explore, and then I had to really ask myself, and it's in going through what that journey was like, that I was like, yeah, you know what, while I'd love to be a mother, I think I'm more hopeful, because it's not like we're practicing safe sex or anything with my husband and I, so it's still possible naturally, and we could probably do it. We could become foster parents. We could adopt still. There's so many. There is hope as well, and so I'm like, but I feel I feel great about it. Like I feel inspired by where my mindset is around it, and so I realized I did conquer it, because there was a time where even in my journal, I wrote, it was more, I was what is this, self-deprecating, right?
Yeah.
I was critical, and now I feel inspired, and by the possibility, and I think that's what it is. I've changed everything in my life to the possibility that it can happen.
So you're sharing this side of yourself, which I'm so grateful to you for sharing, because like I say, there are probably so many women who have never had anybody because no one talks about it. The other thing too that is a really big focus of your life, you talked about service, that this is for you a season of service. You have Empowered in Her Skin. Tell me about that, what your intention, what you're trying to achieve with that platform.
So Empowered in My Skin really, was birthed from the fact that I didn't feel empowered in my skin, and my journey from 2014 that I shared with the Return to Love. There was a day when I just started to feel empowered in my skin. I think, and I don't know, like if I had to describe it, it's like it comes to a point where you feel like you're levitating. Like I don't even know. It's like there's this silent bounce that's happening where you just feel so good in the skin you're in, And I wanted everyone to feel that way. And then I recognized I didn't get there by myself. There was a process, there was a formula, and it's my formula, but everyone has a formula. You just have to make that decision to find out what it is. And so I want to create a platform to amplify the voices of other women in my life, very similar to what we're doing here together today. And I came up with Empowered in My Skin, and I had my first event.
Why that? Why Empowered in My Skin?
Because like I said, I think I start to feel more empowered, and there was a time where this skin was skin I didn't want to live in, and so just really just combine the two, and it felt good, and you test it on somebody and they're like, I love that. And and then you realize that you're not the only person that doesn't feel empowered within their skin, And so it caught, and so Empowered in My Skin it is, yeah.
And so what does that platform look like? What do you do? How do you support women?
Well, it's bigger now than it started off just being events, right? Like where it was just bringing women together to share. Now it's bigger than that, because the organization I recently, I incorporated some years ago, I'm trademarked, and now I've started to recognize, I start to, again, it's like I'm at a new space in my life where it's like, okay, what's common, you know? And I'm often asked to talk about how do you bring your authentic self to corporate? You know, personal brand, right? Like I'm asked to run workshops. And I'm recognizing all of that is self-empowerment, right? Like your authentic self is really your most empowered self. Personal brand is about you walking in your self-empowerment. And so now, from an organization perspective, I'm really thinking it's really about helping others live in their authentic life. And I still know that I'm full. Like I listened to Dennis Rodman's podcast with Louis Hose the other day, and I'm like, yo, like that is an empowering. Like if I can get to that level of empowerment in my skin, I'd be unstoppable, right? But it's like I can, you know, and so it's like as I can, so can others. And so I want the organization to encourage other people to do the same. And it's going to be bigger than like it's not just events. Like I recognize that I'm walking the brand, and so it's going to be focused on anything that's aligned to, you know, helping people live their authentic life, personal branding. I'm in technology, so I actually want to empower the youth to recognize that, you know, these devices that they're holding, conserve them. And I also, like within the Black community, I want to see more Black youth in STEM, and so empowering them, you know, because of the skin that they're in, to step in and start to code so that we could be in the code, you know, we can, you know, like with the artificial intelligence and with where we're going with technology, we need to be, you know, creating that code as well. So, because I don't know if you know, but like sometimes these cameras don't take great pictures of Black people, and I'm like, until I realized that someone told me that's because you ain't coding, how that, you know. So of course, and they're not using you guys as test subjects either, right? So that's why you have to go and find the good light. Where's the good light? Where's the good light? Good light. No, I just want it to be boom, the light's there, right? Yeah. So, but that requires, you know, all of us recognizing that we just need to feel better about ourselves and recognize that we belong everywhere, and that's empowerment. Yeah.
So you've been in technology, you've been in corporate environments, you're now at an executive level, and has that been a hard journey to walk as a woman and as a Black woman? Because the industry you're in is one where typically not a lot of women of color.
Mm. So I love, like, this is gonna be so much fun, right? Because
gonna try not to get you fired.
No. It's actually, I think it's a very empowering. I think it's gonna be a very empowering story. So my parents are Nigerian, and my dad is an electrical engineer and studied at McGill University in Montreal. And my mom is she studied psychology, and she was a librarian. So very much disciplined. Like in our house, all the labels had to be like facing out in the fridge. Yeah, you're like that too, right? So my whole life is like that, you know, making sure that
I try to resist, like really, like sometimes I'll bring stuff back from the grocery and I'm just like, just put it in. Or my husband will put it away, and it's all facing different ways. And I'm like, no. Just breathe. He put away the groceries. Just breathe.
So between the two of them, I just had discipline from a young age. And my parents, we never watched TV. We never really did. So that whole not doing anything idle was really instilled with me from a young age. And my mom got us involved in everything. Like, we were the only Black people either on the skiing slopes or in skating. They didn't know, like, they're from Nigeria, right? Like, what do they know about snow, right? And I was in ballet, you know, with the tutu, and then I played piano, and then I was in soccer. And so there was just a whole bunch of stuff on just introducing us to different things, right? And so technology for me was because my dad introduced us to Atari and Commodore instead of dolls, and so I was like, even in high school, I was one of the only kids that did like the computer classes that you can do like elective, yeah. And so and I would say that as a kid, what I had to really fight was being Black, because my parents again were very convinced in who they were. and they didn't even see this, you know. So they would move wherever they wanted to, and live wherever they wanted to live. And for them, they wanted to live in an affluent white neighborhood in Montreal where there was no one. We were the only 4 speckles of black in 1978. We were the first black family that moved in, and other black families moved in around us. So my parents are pioneers, in my opinion. And so for me, I had to fight the skin first, right? So I share that because I just naturally, organically, I just studied math and computer science. It was my rebel because my parents, African, say, you know, you're either a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer.
Or you're nobody.
And I was like, I'm gonna do math and computer science, right? Like, now I wish I did engineering, but that's besides the point. But I was like, I'm not doing exactly what they want to say, but I'll do math and computer science. So that was my degree. And then I got into into technology, or by vocalizing that I had that degree when I was working at Hudson Bay, and then I, just got into systems analysis, and then eventually, and then I worked my way into leadership. And so all through that, the only thing I ever really, and I don't ever think I felt my color held me back, because my parents had instilled hard work and discipline, and so and you have to work twice or 3 or 4 times as hard. And so by the time I got into the workforce, I was already operating at that level, and I just happened to continue to move up the ranks. I had one job interview in 1996, and to this day, I've never interviewed for another job. And so I've moved from company to big organizations too, through just my hard work and my effort and my ethic and all this and the other. And it was when I got to IBM, so this would have been in 2009. And suddenly somebody asked me, what is it like to be a woman in technology? And I was like, oh yeah. I'm the only, it wasn't a thing for me because I never felt that was a fight that I was in. Mm-hmm. And I was like, shoot, I got to worry about that too? I was like, the black thin's been the thin I've been mostly draining my energy and making sure that I show up. But now I got to add and then I said, no, you don't need to add it. You actually don't need to. If you've been okay, if you've gone to where you've gone to and you're still going, then don't get sucked into it. Because a lot of us, we get sucked into it. But I recognize that it is a thing because I started to pay attention. And I said, well, how about if I don't stand in it, but I stand for it? And so I continue to walk into rooms as a human being who happens to be black, who happens to be female. But I will also, I'm part of the Women in Technology Committee. I'm part of Inclusion and Diversity. And so because I don't sit in it, I'm inspired to where I can help it get to versus feeling consumed and it's sometimes it hits me. I walked into an event the other day where I recognized if I felt suffocated because I was the only black in a room of 300, and I walked into that room not expecting that. I think that was the difference. So sometimes those feelings, because it's oh my God, we have to work here too. You know what I mean? To do better. But for the most part, I don't sit in it. So whenever I'm asked, what is it like to be a woman in technology? I would say, well, let me tell you what it's like to be in technology. And then I just happen to be, then you can tie whatever you want to tie to it. I just happen to be a woman and I happen to be black. Now, here's where I think that we could do better because I believe we need more women and this is why. And I believe we need more blacks and this is why. So I really try to stand for it and stand in it. I hope that.
So it doesn't define you. It doesn't define you.
Because then that's just another label that the external world is imposing on you.
Like you say, it's exhausting. If you take on all the labels that other people impose on you, it can get very exhausting.
So in that particular example that happened just this week on Tuesday, I left that, I actually texted 2 of my colleagues and I said, I was so look at the words I used. I felt suffocated because I brought myself into it. So I felt suffocated. And I needed to unpack it, which meant that it was heavy, but then when I started to think about, when I changed the thought to, okay, no, we need to do better. I need to continue to, this is going to amplify, my focus more. Then I started to lift myself out of it. And I recognized, and then I said, okay, what were some of the things? Well, one of the things was the speaker that got up to speak clearly had a written speech, looked out and said, it's so lovely, it's so amazing to see a room so diverse and so representative of, diversity. And I was like, since when? I'm like, you just want to stand up and say, since when am I since when? We're back to the one and done? Like, is that representative enough now? And so I realized that for me now, it's about adding into my narrative that when we do get onto these stages and we have these platforms to speak, regardless of what your prepared speech is, when you speak, you need to be authentic by looking out and being aware and being able to, on your feet, say, there's some diversity in this room, but there's still areas that are lacking. And if you're in the fight, then that's how aware you need to be. And so I want to now start challenging some of these people that are in the fight for inclusion, diversity, to say, are you really? Could we not do better? And that day we could have done better. Yeah.
So you talked about speaking and a speaker getting up. You're a phenomenal speaker, as evidenced by the speech. That speech is just one, but there's so many speeches that you've given and speeches that I've seen of you online and just seeing you in person. What advice would you give to someone, me, anybody, who's like, how can I be a better speaker?
So I think practice. If I really were to deconstruct, I never set out to be a speaker, but I've been speaking for a really long time. And I believe that everyone is a speaker for the main fact that they have speak, right? My speaking started as far back as, probably 2004 when I did my first Facebook video and just shared a moment that I was having with whoever is on the other side watching. At the time, it might have been just 5 people, because, 5 legs.
Hey, Mom.
But that's, I think once you have to practice, right? And so again, like we talked about that earlier, creating your experiences, right? And so when you have the opportunity, seize it, and if you work at work, get involved in places where maybe you could share your story, or if you have a team, maybe it's, create a lunch and learn for something of a topic that interests you. And I think the more you practice is good. So that's one. 2, I think if you want to be, what do we do when we want to get better at something? You study speakers, listen to podcasts, listen to how different people speak. There are courses you can read about, like presentation, because it's not just your ability to speak, it's also how you present yourself. What's your style? What's your, start to figure out what would that look like. And then I think it's, and then the other aspect of it is I believe in the law of attraction, right? It's sort of, that vision that you have for yourself to be a speaker. And so start to look at yourself on larger platforms. And if you're on a large platform speaking to 10,000 people, how would you speak? How would you bring them in? How would you captivate them? And then just practice in front of your mirror. If you can't speak to yourself, you're not gonna be able to speak to 10,000, So start to speak to yourself, because you stand for 10,000. If you have a cause, pick a cause, any cause. If you have a cause, you stand for 10,000, right?
You talked about vision and manifesting and attraction. What is the big vision?
My moonshot?
Without giving anything away, but what's the dream?
Wow.
What's the big picture for you of where you're going?
I think it's still unfolding, because I realize, with a recent experience, I realized my dream was small. But
I would agree.
Yeah, so yesterday, so today is October 12th, I had the pleasure of meeting Michelle Obama. And she's my 2021 bio, which you probably know Carlin Pistol,
I did, Pistol, yeah.
So she encouraged me the other day to write my 2021 bio. And so I have, I've written it. And so yesterday, because of that experience with Michelle, it's now been updated, because she helped me through that experience. I'm like, wow, even that's possible. And so I think your vision is as far as you can see. And I don't think it has to be something that you think is in fact, your vision should not be anything that you think is attainable. Right. And so she made me realize that my vision in certain areas was small. And so I really do recognize that I am built for global impact. I have videos that have gone viral. I have an invitation that's pending. We'll see where that takes us. But I recognize, just even through the comments that come back, I'm touching people I don't even know on a personal level. I've never physically seen in the flesh. And so my vision is really beyond the four walls. And I do have a moonshot where we are going to live in a world where our eyes are just purely for sight. But people wake up every morning with the vision, which is beyond what your eyes can see, to live out their day, right? Because what they want to achieve is beyond what they can see. This is just to help them navigate the world on today. But the way that they're showing up and how they're leaving their experiences and creating them is, for something that's far better and far beyond. Yeah.
Nkechi, who's been or who have been some of the most influential people in your life?
My brother, he's amazing. And he probably doesn't know this. So yeah, Emeka, I actually, I'm very fortunate to have you as a brother. You've really inspired me to be bigger and better and smarter. So very proud to have him as my brother. My mom and my dad, for sure. I think about where they came from, and, my brother and I both have more than they had, and they've done very, very well. But it's crazy. I think about where they came from and what they've had to endure, and the fact that they have two kids that have been able to achieve far beyond what they were able to accomplish, is really inspiring. And it makes me recognize that my nieces can achieve far more than what my brother and I have already done, and so I need to continue to demonstrate to them what is possible. And then, I just have a tribe of sisters. Like, my tribe is small. There's one of them's in the room today. It makes me emotional. Like you, I just met you, and yeah, man, my eyes are just so open to every single day. There's somebody that's really touching me in a way. I've had that question asked to me before, and there's so many. There's stars that do it. There's real life conversations that do it. Like, everyone I meet makes an indelible impact in my life. And that's important to me. And Empower My Skin, even just that platform, is intended to help to amplify that as well.
I believe that what you see oftentimes is a reflection of you. And so whatever you're seeing in your amazing tribe, and you talked about your brother and his impact and your parents, that's you. That's you and what you're doing for others. And I know, just in my brief interactions with you, just how uplifted I've been, how inspired I've been just watching you just
Thank you.
kick ass in the world.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I received that.
Yeah. And I like you say, I'd love to know, what would Nkechi today say to Nkechi 10 years ago?
I think 10 years ago, I was really defined by outcomes. You know what I mean? Like, having a title mattered, and comparisonitis. Like, why do they have that and I don't? And just letting her know that that's all an illusion, right? Like, if you ground yourself in today, in this moment, then the intentional actions, we talked about intention, the intentional actions you take will yield whatever it is that you want. Like if you're seeing that, remember that and what you're seeing in them is already possible, right? And so what you're going to achieve is that plus more, And so don't limit yourself to only that which you see, because they're just showing that that's possible, That's what I would tell her. But I will tell you something. I'm actually speaking more to the Nkechi 20 years from now, my 80-year-old self, who is going to be chilling on a beach, reading my memoir with my tribe around me, because we're all going, the people in your environment, your current environment really dictates your future. And
isn't it the quote that you are the sum of the 5 people you
right, that you have around me. So my husband's going to be there, my bestie's going to be there, my and we're just going to be chilling and inspiring lives and creating opportunities even in our 80s. And I'm going to be fit. Julie and I have this thing where she's 5 years younger than me, and she told me that I need to be at her 100 because she'll be at mine, and so it'd be unfair for me to think about not being at hers. I'm like, damn, I have to stay alive to 105. So we have the 105 and 100, like we call it the 100, 105. Yeah. So yeah, man. I'm not even close to my maximum potential because there's still fearful places inside of me that I recognize that I need to conquer, those are just limits, right? And so I'm looking to become limitless in so many different areas of my life. So I don't need, I'm excited about, literally I'm excited. Today my friend Colleen says, you need a chief of staff. I'm like, yes, I need to start creating roles of what I need in my life. Chief of staff sounds awesome, so that's right, but yeah, I'm just excited. I tell people, wake up excited about, you could just make that decision. I'm excited. I'm really excited. I'm very excited about everything. Yeah.
What are you most proud of that you've achieved?
That I understand love. And it's not a romantic thing. It's you can't get the love that you can't give yourself. You can't get it. My mom and I had a tumultuous relationship, and it was once I understood what love is and what it meant to live in love, that publicly for the first time ever in my life, and your African parents don't often say it, but there was a microphone and the room heard it, and it liberated many, and love should be liberating. So once I'm so proud that I understand what love is. Yeah.
Such a beautiful thing. Yeah. What do you think is your superpower?
My love, I think my energy for sure. My energy for sure is my superpower. It's blazoned on my chest, right? Yeah, no, energy is my superpower for sure.
Energize about
for sure.
And you wear a beautiful, I
Yes.
see you wear it all the time. Tell me about the necklace that you wear.
So I'm going to put my husband on blast a bit. So my husband did buy this for me, and the way he bought it was because he says, what do I buy you? Because, you buy everything typically for yourself. So I sent him a picture of this dumbbell. Mind you, I did send him the one with the Swarovski crystals.
That's the upgrade for next year. That's the 2021 loading.
That's okay. And it has scripture on it. So it's Luke 1:37. With God, nothing is impossible. And I wear it everywhere. Even if I'm wearing gold, I'm this is my thing. I wear this everywhere. And the dumbbell obviously just is, again, solidifying my conviction about the importance of wellness and health. And yeah, I'm an avid bodybuilder. It's my brand. I walk it, I live it. Yeah.
I could talk to you. Literally, I could talk to you, but I know, Colleen's girl, wrap this up.
I do have a parting message I could share.
Okay, yes, tell me. We're not done yet. I have one piece,
okay.
But you can share that, because typically what I ask in how I like to end the interview is to say, is there a question that you wish I would have asked you, or something that you want to share? So go ahead.
Yeah. So I think love truly is the antidote, and I bring it into corporate. When I speak, every platform, and that was another thing, even in speaking, I'm making sure that my message is very consistent. And it's really about lead with love and the fact that you matter. And if you want a better world, it truly starts with you. I mean, I'm not trying to be cliche. There's, Nelson Mandela and Oprah, all of them have been saying it from time, but I'm living it, and it really does, and it's important. And so I often, in technology, I like to say, imagine if you were a digital billboard, and what displayed was what's going on the inside. Because everything on the outside really is driven from what lives on the inside. And say it said, you know, my mom just died, or I'm suffering from depression, or I lost a loved one, or, you know, I'm not good enough, or whatever. Like, it was just that true inner pain that you had. I promise you, the experiences that you have would be different, because there's very few people in this world that would be able to read your digital billboard of your pain and treat you in a way in that experience that would just continue to harm you. You know, we would show up differently for each other. And so why do we have to imagine, why do we have to wait to have that digital billboard? Why can't we just walk with that and realize that everyone has had a life and has internal pain? It is real. It is a real thing. I don't care. You know, we see it all the time with bullying and with the war and all this. This is just internal pain that people are acting out. And so if we just lock into the fact that everyone has their own pain and it's not about you, boo, and how they react to you has nothing to do with you, we would show up differently. So I just, you know, that's a big message for me. It's like, it ain't about you, boo. You know, when you show up with empathy and compassion and love, and watch how that experience is gonna just magnify and just, you know, be the best experience you possibly could have imagined, you know?
Actually, that's so interesting that you say that, you know, how people are in the world isn't necessarily about you, it's about what's going on with them. Because that actually, I asked Julie yesterday, and I said what was her favorite book, and we talked about the 4 agreements.
Oh, right.
And then we talked about the agreement that says, it's not about you, right? It's not about anything that people do say, it's not about you, it's about whatever's going on with them. Which leads me to, I want to ask you this last question. You've talked so much about love, but also about the impact that reading Marianne Williamson's book, Return to Love, had on you. And the person who led you to that book was your best friend, Julie. What do you want to say to Julie?
Oh my gosh. It takes a lot to tell somebody you're broken. You know, it takes a lot. But what do we say? It says 10 seconds of courage can change your life, but it can also change somebody else's life. And that day she had courage to say something that I could have ignored, said something that could have destroyed our relationship. But she took courage to say, if you're not willing to really clean your insides, like I'm there. Like, her environment, it was about being better and doing more. But if you're not with me, I'm okay to walk, you know? And having that much courage, and I just wish all friendships, like, that's a real friendship, you know? We're like that, you know? And yeah, like, changed my life.
You have been, you know how I feel about you.
love you.
You know, I feel like you're such a light and such a joy. I always come away from any interaction I have with you feeling better about myself, feeling uplifted.
Thank you. But you remember what you said? Reflection, projection, right?
But truly,
Yeah.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate the work that you're doing to help others.
Thank you.
How you're trying to reach out through, whether it be through Empowered in My Skin, or whether it be in the work that you do in corporate or speaking, that you're doing it to help others. It's not just about you.
It's not about me.
And that is because in a world like of today, where so many of us are just concerned about me, and as long as I'm okay, then that's okay. It's beautiful to encounter someone who's making their purpose about helping others and bringing others along. So
Thank you.
I thank you and I appreciate you. Last question.
Yeah.
So this platform is called Ndini, and I named it that after, in my mother tongue, Shona, that's a word that means I am, and the power of I am. Finish that sentence for me. I am.
Born to win, designed for accomplishment, engineered for success, endowed with the seeds of greatness. I am enterprising, I am industrious, I create amazing experiences for myself and others. I am recognizing and releasing the love and laughter within me. I am making my life magnetic, I'm making my joy contagious, I am making my passion irresistible, and I am making sure that I'm an irresistible and exceptional human in every experience I have. I am phenomenal.
I don't want this to end. I don't want this to end. Thank you, my sister.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hey, 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 hey.
I told you it's a good song.
Woo, that was awesome.
Yes.